Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Another episode of The Dot presented by Matt Bowers Auto Group. As always, if you are a member of NewOrleans.Football, join our Twitter community. You can submit questions for this and talk with us and other Saints fans in there. This week, our first question we start with, I'm going to do a 2-in-1. One, will Jameis Winston start this week, and should he? And two, is a two-quarterback system sustainable in the NFL?
Well, I assume part two meaning Taysom Hill, not
Yeah.
Dalton Jameis, which is a fascinating thing we've never discussed. How about three-quarterback system? I don't think Jameis will start yet this week, but he's looked pretty good in practice. He's done more in practice than he was doing the week he started at Carolina, I think. But, I think Dalton has done well enough, and as I mentioned, Dennis Allen brought up Dalton's performance for the first time as a factor in the equation and said multiple times how efficient he thinks the offense is running with Dalton. So I think it'll take Jameis being really close to 100% before he comes back. Whereas some starters, like when Drew was here, if he felt just good enough to go, they would go with him. I think with Jameis, he has to get all the way back to 100% health, 95% health. And I think this is just the first step in that process. I wouldn't be in any hurry to make that change if I'm the Saints and my offense has been looking the way it has. But I also don't think Andy Dalton has made it no, he's the new number one and Jameis is never coming back yet.
Yeah, I don't think he should. If he is trending towards that direction, I think you wait until Thursday. Bringing him back now with all these injuries and then having to play on a short week doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I would tell him, stand back, wait. I'd be surprised if he starts this week. As for the two-quarterback system thing, I don't think a full two-quarterback system like some colleges run really works in the NFL. But the way the Saints did it last week, where Taysom Hill strategically getting 10, 15 touches every game, I think that is something that can work and something that they should even try to figure out, because I think that makes them the best possible version of themselves. And he's really kind of that home run threat, if you look at him as an extension of the running game, that they don't really have with these bigger, more plodding, slower running backs. So I think that his mix in this offense is something that they desperately need.
I think you used the right word, an extension of the running game. I've always felt that way, even in the days of people getting mad that they're taking Drew Brees off the field for Taysom Hill. I don't think of him as a two-quarterback system. I think of him as part of the run game. Yeah. The same as, you're taking the ball out of Drew Brees' hands when he hands it off to a running back. Taysom Hill has always been 90% run game and a really good part of the run game.
And our next question is about the pass rush this week against the Bengals offensive line. I think this is the most critical thing in this game. Marshawn Lattimore's not going to play this week. I would be shocked if he does. So the secondary's going to be a little bit depleted. It looks like Marcus May will be back. So they have to get after Joe Burrow. They have to speed him up. They have to take advantage of the advantage they have in the pass rush this week. So if they aren't making him uncomfortable, I think they lose this game. If they can find a way to affect Burrow and maybe even get him to make a mistake, I think that turns the tides and maybe helps overcome the loss of not having Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't think they want to have to do it through pressures and blitzes, because they want to be able to get there with just four guys, because they need all hands on deck in pass coverage. And I think they can. For years, I think for this whole stretch since 2017, the defensive line has been sort of what makes their defense go. And it's been a little touch and go, but I think it's been on the upswing the last few weeks. Some guys who are actually healthy, Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport and David Onyemata, they absolutely need to be at their best in affecting this game for the Saints to have a chance.
And our last one came via DM. Should Dennis Allen give up play calling duties? I think this is an overreaction. They had one bad game this year. I don't think it was because of the play calling. DA did say there were a couple calls he'd like back. But since week one, that end of game clock management, I haven't really seen anything that makes me think that he's in over his head, that he's too distracted with anything. He got a timely challenge in last week, won that, ended up winning the game because he threw the red flag actually on the Olave touchdown. So I don't think that that's really anything that they should look at this point. If it were ever to become an issue where he felt there was too much on his plate, I think they have two guys that are extremely capable of doing that with Nielsen and Richard. But I'm not looking at this like, hey, DA's got too much going on and it looks like his head's spinning.
Well, I think the question is in reverse. I think he is still doing a good job as a defensive play caller this last game aside. I think it was the strength of their team in the early weeks of the season, and that is still his bread and butter. But the question is that the one thing he's doing a good job at, and the head coaching duties have slipped a little because now he's under the microscope, and now it's like, Should he be correcting fumbling issues instead? Should he be concentrating more on head coach? That'll be, if they ever make the change, it'll probably be because he thinks he's letting other things slide.
Yeah, look, but every time we're at practice, I see him on the offensive side of the field more so than the defensive side. So I don't even think that during the week he's spending all of his focus on the defense. He looks to be paying attention where he needs to pay attention. Obviously, the results aren't there, so you can't really defend that until you see things on the field that defend itself, as far as the fumbling and correcting the offensive penalties. But it doesn't look like he's over there. I think he's on the other side of the field more than I ever saw Sean Payton on the defensive side of the field, at least during the open portion of practice. So, I think when you aren't winning games and things aren't going well, you're open to all this second guessing. They go out there and win one of these next two, win both of them. A lot of this stuff goes to the wayside and people stop.
Earn the right to keep the job he wants to keep.
Yeah. So that's it for this week's mailbag. As always, keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.